Okay, now we're going to talk about the insulation and why I chose the insulation that I chose. Okay, there's a couple of insulations, and forgive me if I forgot anything. This is the first one that's most popular, is to stick some sort of foil insulation straight on the van surface all the way around inside here, straight to the metal. This is the metal that is essentially the same metal that is the outside surface of the van. It's called foil, or there's a lot of names for it, insulation foil, or it's essentially a bubble wrap that has two sheets of aluminium on each side of it, okay, and that is supposed to reflect the heat out, okay. That's what it's supposed to be, to reflect heat or reflect out, or so many names from the different brands. Now, from the research that I've done, and you know, being in the industry that I am, you got to do a lot of research. I have done tons of hours on it and trying to figure out, is this the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do? It did not make sense to me initially, because you're sticking a foil reflector, which is a heat reflector or induction reflector. In other words, you're reflecting the heat back out straight onto metal. So how is it going to reflect it out? It's going to stay somewhere in the metal and it's going to travel back again through the foil insulation into the other side, and now you have something even worse. You're having something that will create induction of heat inside the van. So you have a whole surface covered. I think it would be better off cover the whole thing with MDF with that insulation than putting that sort of insulation on. So that's what I thought, and then I looked into it and I found that I was sort of right. You cannot put that insulation straight in the metal. You need to have at least a 20 mil gap or a 40 mil as recommended, which is essentially that you have that metal, then you're going to have that foil about 40 mil out this way. The foil is here, not touching the metal, just not the outer. This is the outer metal, yeah. Okay, you don't want to touch the outer metal. You're going to have it suspended about 40 mil out this way. Okay. And a couple of things that I thought about, I'm like, okay, how efficient is it if I stick it straight in the metal? And I looked it up, and it's not very efficient. And if you want to use R rating, which is just a rating, and you know, there's a lot of people going to disagree with me, it's just a number. This is a rating. That's all there is to it. It's a number. You'll find that you'll have about less than 1 R rating of 1 if you do that. So I didn't like the idea of insulating the van by sticking foil straight on the metal. So I did a bit more research, and I found this spray foam business, polyethylene spray that you can spray on the van. I'm thinking that's pretty easy. I can spray this right on the metal everywhere, and I'll get 1 inch of coverage, and this is gonna be ideal because it's quite easy to do, right? No, actually it is wrong, because I found there's other reasons why that is doesn't work. Because it does work, it will actually insulate nicely, but you have a lot of toxic fumes involved in this process, because you're actually mixing 2 chemicals to create this foam that will insulate the van for you. Okay, so like, I'm gonna be sleeping in here. I don't want any toxins in there. I don't want anything that will kill me or create cancer for me. So I scrapped the idea of having this spray. I mean, that was $600. You could spray the whole van and it's done. It's easy, and you cover all the angles of it. So I'm like, yep, that's gonna be the easiest way to do it. So I decided that's not going to be the right insulation style, right, or the type of insulation that I want. So what I did is I wanted to do more research, and I found you can do some wool insulation, which is essentially pink bats, but in wool, so it's a bit more healthy, and it doesn't have any fiberglass or anything like that, because it's not gonna create chemicals that will kill you in the end, right? And I found that that also has its own flow, which is shrinkage. It will shrink with time. It was just not sufficient on its own. You needed something to complete. And the other insulation that I found is the thick, what are they called, rigid boards. Okay, rigid boards are the stuff that you have. It's like big, thick styrofoam style foam that has two sides of aluminium or foil style, right? So you have one cover, one side covering here, foil, okay, and the other side of the foil, the board is also foil. So it's like, so that I found that to be the highest insulation. Now, if you look at the R rating compared to the foil is like 6 or 7 if installed correctly. Right, and it's very important that you understand this part. Correct installations is the key to having these R-rated value, which is really how it all works. So what I thought in the end, I'm going to do this a little bit different, right? If you look at the structure of the van, there is a bend around the van there, right? It's a bend. So I'm gonna be, in the end, by the looks of it, I'm gonna end up the whatever plywood or MDF or Pro Light is going to come all the way in the end outside. So I'm not going to be recessing this like they do that on the factory. Factory is giving you this only, right? Recess. Only this area here covering there, and that's about it. That's all they give you. So you're going to have all this metal exposed. And the metal there, it's all metal exposed. And they're all metal. So that will conduct a lot of cool and heat, and you're actually going to lose a lot of the thermal insulation that you're planning to have. You're going to lose it through these bars because it's not good enough. So I decided I'm going to have styrofoam style or rigid boards insulation. There's going to come in tons, brands, not shapes, but brands and styles. They're all going to be rated around the same, which is R1 or R1 point something, and it doesn't sound like a lot of rating for a board, right? But I find it to be very makes sense to use the board. I mean, I'm going to have the board here cut up to the shape of that thing there inside, so it's going to be there. I'm going to stick it a bit with some sort of foil and a glue in the back. Make sure it's nice and rigid so it doesn't make a lot of noise. And the same thing with that section there. Okay, and then I'm going to have this whole area. I mean, this is probably about 30 mil or 40 mil there. So it's about 30-40 mil. So I'm thinking I might as well use the all insulation. And after that, I'm going to be putting the foil, which is I think it's probably an idea to get 5 or 6 mil, 5-6 rating or 7 rating factor out of this. But if it's done properly, so I'm going to be putting the foil, what I'm thinking, on the outside there, all the way down there, here, up, there, up. So this is the foil section, and then I'll be putting MDF on that. The same thing goes up here. So I'm going to have the if I cut up the rigid boards right there, all these little spaces, I'm going to put them inside, recess it inside. That's about 20 or 25 mil, I would say. And then I'll cover this in foil. I'll cover all that in foil, which gives me the recommended installation method, which is 25 mil. So I'm going to have the board and then the foil on top of it. So that should be nice and sufficient. Now in the bottom area here, it's a challenge, right? I'm not sure what I'm going to be doing, but putting a 25 mil, 25. Some people. Putting a 25 mil board in here is going to raise the floor by at least 35 mil, because I'm going to put the 25 mil, then 10 mil at least, some sort of I don't know, MDF or some sort of, you know, plywood minimum, okay, because you want to protect the floor. So what I'm going to do here, maybe I'm gonna have to find out, but maybe put in these grooves here, sort of build inside the grooves, all these grooves. I don't know, maybe 10 mil, let's say about 10 mil rigid boards, and stick them to the ground inside the grooves, and then on top of that 10 or 20 mil, maybe 20 mil rigid boards inside there. Maybe make big ones there, so these big grooves there, grooves here, one there, and then want to cross all these across, and then stick these rigid boards there, make it so that will raise the ground up.